Hello, I'm an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything, or anyone, in any way. I just like knives. And we're taking a little tour through my collection of folding pocket knives. Today we're going to deviate a little bit. I always say I collect small, folding, gentleman's pocket knives, and today we're going to have a look at a knife that is basically none of those. This is a Spyderco PM2, Paramilitary 2. And it really doesn't belong in my collection by my definition. It's not small. It's certainly not a gentleman's knife. But it is a really well-made knife that probably has some really good uses. And I imagine I will be keeping it, but in some limited ways. So let's go through that a little bit. It has been noted by friends of mine that I don't have any Spydercos in my collections. And I always said, yeah, I know, I collect small folding gentleman's knives, and Spydercos are ugly. I don't like the design, I don't like the humpback, I don't like the big hole, and I think they look threatening and tactical, and that's not what I collect. That was always my answer. But over time, this knife was really sort of coming to my attention. This is one of those reference knives that people say, oh, you got to try one of these, it's a fantastic knife. Eventually I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. I mean, if I hate it, I can always sell it again. Plus, this particular version of the knife was available with a steel I've never tried before, and a chance to try a new steel as well. So I had an opportunity to pick this one up and did. So formally, this is a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, generally called the PM2. And there's all kinds of versions of these available. So this one is in what they call the blue G10 scales, and the special SV110 blade. So the mechanism of Spyderco's is the famous Spidey hole. It's a thumb hole deploy, so sort of like a thumb stud, except a hole instead. And the locking mechanism is interesting. It's called a compression lock, and I didn't know what that meant until I got one. Essentially, it is just a liner lock, except the mechanism is here on the back of the blade, instead of normally liner locks are here on the live side of the blade. So there's the liner lock, and just like any other liner lock, you push it aside to close the knife. Why care about that? Why is that a big deal? Well, because you can initiate the closing operation with your fingers not being in harm's way. Your fingers are not in the path of the blade when you initiate the closing operation, so it's safer. And that's kind of neat. So the size is one of my issues with this knife. This is a big knife. Now, honestly, actually, it seems a little bigger than it is because it's got a very large handle and a very wide blade. There's a lot of stuff there. Nevertheless, it is a large knife. The blade is almost 3.5 inches long. I think it's 3.4 or something like that. To use a more scientific measurement, it is about 1.1 pocket calculators, and it's a little more than that, isn't it? Maybe 1.2 pocket calculators, which is big. Compare it to some other knives. This is interesting, for example. It's the same overall length as a Sebenza, but slightly less blade, because there's a lot of handle here. And we pick another knife that's considered to be in the large class. So as you can see, it is somewhat larger than a Benchmade 940, but again, the blade is almost exactly the same size, or maybe even a little smaller, so lots of handle. So anyway, it is a big knife, and it looks big because of this tremendous width of the blade. It is also a heavy knife. It's 106 grams, so that's heavier than the 940, which is only this is the 940 carbon fiber. This is only 68 grams. Is 106, so what is that, about 50% more. So it's heavier than some knives that are bigger than it, or that have more blade than it. So it's a heavy knife. It's dense. The blade is interesting. The blade is what they call a modified clip point. So it starts very wide, basically to make room for the hole, narrows down in both dimensions to a very pointy end, kind of a leaf-shaped point, and of course that characteristic hump to make room for the hole. And I don't really like the shape. I think it looks scary and threatening, and that's kind of the opposite of my interest in knives, but it is a great cutter. Full flat grind, very sturdy back of the blade, and cuts really well. The steel is interesting, SV110 V steel. I've never tried that, so I read a bit about it. And what I read is that it is hard to sharpen, and in return for being hard to sharpen, it has incredible wear resistance. It will apparently hold its edge, forever. Like, I probably will not live to need to sharpen this blade unless I abuse it. And now in return for the high hardness, it's lower toughness. So what the reviewers say is cut with it, but don't abuse it. Don't use it to pry the lid of a paint can open. There is no sharpening choil, which is interesting. So when sharpening, you do have to be careful with this quite pronounced shoulder that it doesn't get scuffed by a sharpening stone. The body is full steel liners inside, and this particular one is textured G10 over it. It's got I don't think I can make that visible in this light, but it's got quite a noticeable texture in it, and it gives you a great grip. Certainly not decorative. It's not exotic material or carbon fiber or wood or anything, but a great grip. And it's an interesting color. Spyderco calls this blue. Most people say that it's got some purple in it, and so the nickname has become Blurple, and I kind of like that. And it's an interesting color, if not decorative. Has a pocket clip, a long, polished stainless pocket clip, and a very versatile pocket clip. It's 4-position mountable. You can see it can go on either side and on either end. Mounting holes here. It actually came with the clip here, so it came set for tip down carry, and I moved it over here to tip up, not because I have a strong reason to prefer tip up. I think there are religious debates about that, but because all of my other knives are tip up, and it was just too confusing to have one that was going in my pocket the other way. There's a lanyard hole, quite a large one, and it's lined. It's part of the backspacer post. And I usually comment on whether knives are ambidextrous. So this one, yeah, I'd say it's about 80% so. And the screws, the decorations, and so on are all fully ambidextrous. The compression, or the clip, is movable, so fully ambidextrous. The compression lock, of course, is one-sided. So right-handed, I'm pressing it with my index finger. If I was trying to operate the knife left-handed, I'd have to press that with my thumb. And it makes it a little harder to keep my fingers out of the way. I'm sure lefties have to learn to do things like that, but it's not ideal. So I'd give it sort of 80% ambidextrous. If you care about these things, this is manufactured in the United States, in Colorado. It says on the side here, and I do like, it's kind of cute, that it specifies Golden, Colorado, United States, Earth. So, if this is in some future time found floating in outer space, it'll be nice to know what planet it originated on. So I do like a number of things about this knife. First of all, I like the action a lot. You can slow open it with your thumb, which I like. And it is highly adjustable. The pivot screws do give you a lot of control over the looseness of the blade, and with the blade set fairly loose, it flicks really well. This famous Spidey flick is really neat. And it took me a little while to learn how to do that. I was trying to do it with my thumb, and you can, but it feels a little awkward. But boy, getting the tip of your finger in that hole, just like flicking a crokinole chip or something, getting the tip of your finger in that hole and flicking, and that is really neat. You get a wonderful, satisfying open that way. And with the blade fairly loose, you can set it to drop shut, which is nice. And even though it's loose enough to drop shut, there is no blade play. So that is a really nice mechanism. I'll say here, I like the compression lock for this because, as I said, your fingers aren't in harm's way. I don't usually set knives to drop shut because with most of my knives, to initiate the closing action, some part of your body is down here, and I don't want it dropping shut with my thumb or finger sitting there. But with the compression lock, everything is out of the way. So I feel completely safe having it fall shut, so I can enjoy it. So that's neat. I like the blade. I like things about the blade. I don't like the blade shape. We'll come back to that. But it is an interesting steel. Very sharp out of the box. Thin, flat, big surface. Cuts really well. It's a great blade for shaving wood, for cutting cardboard, that kind of thing. And it is a comfortable knife to hold. There's lots of handle, nice texturing on the G10, and there's jimping everywhere. Jimping here on the back of the blade for the thumb, jimping here for choking up the finger, so secure thumb rest area, just a really comfortable blade to hold. So why is this not a showpiece knife in my collection? Well, there's a few things I don't like. First of all, sorry, I think that's ugly. I don't like this ultra fat back on the blade. I don't like the long leaf-shaped pointiness of the blade, and the reason I don't like both of those things is that it makes the blade look scary. It looks tactical. It makes it hard to use my normal description of my collection as being gentlemen's knives. And they actually call this a tactical genre in their website, and the name paramilitary, really, like, this has no place in my collection of gentlemen's knives. I'll also mention, just, when holding it, it is really comfortable to hold, as I said, but there is a hot spot. The clip on the palm of my hand there is a bit of a hot spot. Now, I moved the clip. Maybe if I'd left it where it was, I wouldn't be feeling that, but that's just less than perfect. And if it was turned up just a little less, I think it would be much more comfortable. Anyway, and sort of something I'm sort of neutral on. If this was trying to be a gentleman's knife, then I would say the blade is over-decorated. Okay, there's the Spyderco logo here, Spyderco name there, steel on this side, where it's made, right down to the planet, and then these two weird elvish runes here. I guess they're dwarvish runes here, which I'm told are the initials of the two designers of the knife. There's a lot of crap written on the blade. If it was trying to be a gentleman's knife, I'd say that's too much. But it's not. It's kind of cool. And the designer's initials are cute, and saying Earth on it is cute. And since it's not trying to be a gentleman's knife, I guess that's okay. So let's go through my blade rating system here. We'll start with the NTGK rating for non-threatening gentleman's knife. Now, I should say, I almost feel like I shouldn't. I mean, this isn't trying to be an NTGK. That's going to do badly. It's not a bad knife. I feel I should have some other rating system for knives that aren't trying to be NTGKs, that are just trying to be great tools. But I don't have one, and I can't be bothered making one up because that's not really what I collect. So I'm going to run it through my internationally unknown rating system, and it'll score badly. Sorry. So for NTGK, non-threatening gentleman's knife, I'll do non-threatening and then gentleman's knife. So for non-threatening, well, there is some good news. The good news is you can open it slowly, which always helps to make a knife less threatening. And even better, you can open it with two hands, which really helps make a knife non-threatening. Now, the bad is everything else. I mean, it's big, and look at that. It's tactical. It's pointy. It's got an aggressive, scary-looking blade shape with a spider on the side of it. Who's afraid of spiders? The name is called a paramilitary, really. So it's like it's made for commandos. It describes itself as tactical. And God help if you ever actually do a Spidey flick in front of nervous people. Switchblade! Okay, so everything about it is scary. This is not a non-threatening knife. I'd give it a C for non-threatening. For a gentleman's knife, well, the good news is famous brand. And famous brands always help make things gentlemanly. The bad is everything else. It is big. It is functional, non-decorative scales. They're great scales, feel good, good grip. There's nothing decorative about those scales. Tactical looking, blade hump is ugly, heavy in your pocket, shallow carry clip that leaves quite a lot of the knife sticking out, conspicuous color. All it would need to get a D or an F would be some stupid decoration on it, like blood splattered paint or weapony jagged bits, but as it is, a C. So I'm going to give it a C overall as a non-threatening gentleman's knife. It's just not what it's trying to be. Now, the other rating, my KN rating for knife nerds, it's going to do well. And the famous model of a famous brand and a premium version of that. Premium steel. Has a really unique lock that I really think is cool and a lot of people like. Very nice, smooth, easy opening, and the Spidey flag is just so cool. Drop shutty and safe when drop shutting, and it's comfortable in every respect. A great cutter. So my knife nerd friends would love this thing. A+ as a KN rating. And for my CMR, cut myself rating, I'm going to give it an A+. A because I haven't cut myself. An A+ because with that compression lock, this is probably the safest closing knife in my collection. So it really does do well for that. So in summary, I bought this as a gotta-have knife. It's just something I couldn't be without one of these things. And I am impressed with the blade and the mechanism as a tool. It's a great working knife for serious cutting. Probably will become my preferred tool for outdoor use like camping once the plague ends and we camp again. But it's ugly and it's scary, and there is no way I'll carry this in public. It's just too threatening. It's kind of the opposite of the non-threatening gentleman's knife that is the theme of my collection. So, great knife. I'll keep it as a tool, not really part of my gentleman's knife collection. That brings us to the end. Thanks for watching. See you again.